Recording is on.
Hello and welcome to the Monday, 22nd of November, 2021 DXbiz Dev call. Before we get started, the ETH Denver registration opens up in about an hour. So go and get registered for one of the biggest hackathons. I think, well, the biggest hackathon in Ethereum and one of the greatest events in Ethereum. And yeah, so that's that. I think it's going to be open when this call ends. On the agenda today, we have guys from GRO protocol presenting. I think they're already in the chat. Under DXbiz discussions, we have the initiative DAO idea that's on the DAO forum, a collaboration between XDAI and Stake. A collaboration with Stake for Stake DAO rewards. Sorry, not Stake DAO, but Stake rewards on Swapper. Treasury diversification proposal that went up also on the forum or forum discussion. The Pocket Network deal, and if we have time, the Gnosis chain discussion. And yeah, I don't know if we have also time for the DX Ventures opportunities with Double and Atlantis. So that's that. Keenan, to your question, it's to hack in the hackathon. So yeah. I guess the first item is the GRO presentation, and I think I saw a few guys. Yeah, Joyce and Chris. So yeah, welcome to the DXDAO. Feel free to take the next 15-20 minutes to present and get some discussion going, and remember to leave a few minutes at the end for questions. So yeah, the mic is yours.
All right, thank you so much. And it's very exciting for us to be here to share with you more about GRO protocol and also our treasury product. Let me start off with saying that I think we have been speaking a little bit more on the Discord and also in DMs and even in person when in Lisbon. But I believe that most of this group might not have heard about it yet. So let me maybe repeat some of what you have already known. Bear with me for this. So GRO protocol is working on stablecoin yield aggregation. But what it is really is trying to do beyond the technical terms is to make DeFi more accessible to everyone. So we are not looking particularly to get a lot of people understanding how DeFi works in behind the scenes, but really to say that let's get into it. Let's actually tap those opportunities with a very simple and easy to use product. So that's why we have brought to the world with Power Stablecoin, which is what offers a deposit protection for users who are looking with lower risk appetites. And the way that we are doing the risk management side of it is through two things. The first thing is about diversification. Many people are concerned that some stablecoins are less safe than the others. And instead of taking a position of them, we figure, why do we not have one stablecoin that actually gives you access to major stablecoins out there in, let's say, a one-third allocation, and potentially more going forward as well. And we are not only diversifying on stablecoins, but also on different protocols, because protocols do get exploits, as we have learned a bit more on that later. And also just to make sure that overall our yield sources would be diversified so that if anything fails, that is not going to be detrimental to the users. Now, they're still bound to have some risk. And for that, the remainder of it, we're looking for the second products that GRO offers, Vault, for it to cover for Powered. And what that essentially does is, instead of purchasing an insurance for your investment, we are using risk tranching to make sure that any risk for Power stablecoin users are actually covered by Vault, which means, let's say when Cream was exploited and we suffered losses as a protocol, all of that losses were being borne by Vault users instead of Powered users. Now, why would they want to do it? It's because we don't just tranche risk, but also the yield as well, which means that Vault users, in exchange of protecting Powered, they got more share of the yield that's being generated by the total deposit. And it is through this kind of tranching mechanism that we have come up with a way that you don't need an insurance, but still it is actually protected with a healthy base yield of about 5 to 10% for power stablecoin today. Now, compared to what is being used by a lot of people in TradFi, 5% sounds like really good. But then we also realize that for individual retail users today, they are looking for something more higher risk. And so, who are really the best people to use something that is going to be safe, something that's actually giving you a healthy yield, but also getting protection? We think that now treasuries could be one really good use case of it, because no one wants to lose that type of funds you have in the treasuries that's entrusted to the DAO. But at the same time, having the money sitting idle, it's okay, but then we could do better than that. Which is why we have been working with different treasuries to talk about power being a one way for DAOs to actually make your stable coins work harder, and then actually help you generate yield for treasury, which enables better support for your growth initiatives going forward, and also just in general a better capital efficiency or higher ROI for your stable coins. So that is what I would like to chat more with you on how that fits with DXDAO. And particularly, we believe that DXDAO has a 7.4 million stablecoin treasury today, and having a 5% yield, it would still be good enough to help actually cover the burn rate that you have in terms of hiring more developers or in general growing the ecosystem. That's why we would like to explore with you if that's something that could be helpful to you, and in general looking at how we can collaborate even more. Let me stop here because I know I have actually gone on for quite a while, and see if I could take any questions from any of you.
Thanks. That was really informative, and I may say you've prepared well for this presentation, Joyce. Could you rewind back and give us a walkthrough of exactly what happened when the Cream exploit happened, and how Grow reacted to it as a team?
Of course. When Cream exploit happened, it was almost a month ago. So what we understand is that at that point, the protocol had 15% exposure to Cream, which means that we will have to understand 15%, 1/5, is being lost or potentially lost because of the exploit. At that point, we couldn't quite tell for sure if the entirety of 15% was gone or not. And because we have not seen this Cream strategy being written down according to the exact amount of loss, we have to take actions to write it down ourselves. So we recognize the entire 15% was lost, and then allocated that. Well, we don't have to allocate that further because our design has already covered it. So all those 15% loss was allocated to vault users by design. And what that means is then the powered stablecoin users were not at all affected. And the way that it is done is because of the risk tranching mechanism. There was definitely first time that we actually see this in action, because so far Grow has launched publicly in mid-August. And so this is the first protocol exploits we have seen. But because of the way that these products are designed, we do see that it's tested. Yes, Vault does its job as a protector or the guardian of Powered. So Powered users were all good. Some extra steps that we have taken since then is that we are still getting more information about how exactly those losses were, and the few compensation that came through. Part one is on for Cream has already sent us back some Cream tokens as the compensation program that they have shared on Twitter, and those we have airdropped to all of the impacted users. So I think that probably is accounted for the bulk of the compensation. The second part was about if you remember, there were around a few $1 million that were used as part of the exploit that was sent back to Cream right after the exploit by Yuan because the attackers left them there. So we have also recovered about 720K US dollars from that, and those we have also send it back to the vault users through as it is part of the recovery through the strategies. And the final part is that we are also going to send out some grow tokens, still negotiating or discussing the details with community because we are seeing whether we'll be doing the grow token as a compensation for front running. The reason there was a front running is on the vault side. What that means is if the entire strategy has been written down at the instant that the exploit took place, then there was no front running because all the loss would have been shared by everyone who have money in vault. But because there was a time delay between actually there was an exploit and then we could take the action to write down the loss. That's why there were some vault users have already left the protocol at that point. And so only the remaining vault users have taken slightly larger losses than they should have. And that's the portion, the front running is the portion that we are using Grow as a compensation to the vault users. So those are the three parts that we have come up with together to help compensate the losses. It was not going to be a full compensation, I believe, because one cream token has depreciated quite a lot in value since they announced the recovery program. And two, I also think that fundamentally, Ford's role is to protect power, and it is in fact that role that has been fulfilled. So you could almost say the loss itself is somewhat by design, and it's working or functioning exactly as it should have. So that's why we see some form of compensation coming through from Cream and for us from the front running side. But ultimately, its role has been fulfilled, and that's why Ford suffered the losses, but not for the powered users.
And I'm wondering, how could the DAO permissionlessly manage its funds? Depositing is the no-brainer. How about withdrawing? Would the DAO rely on a Grow protocol, or is there some kind of a dashboard where the DAO itself could operate its funds and withdraw at any time permissionlessly? And also, what is your strategy for L2? Like, what are the networks you support currently?
Gotcha. And so where we are getting at, I would say for the withdrawal and deposits can be done permissionlessly through our dApp today. We also have Chris online, and he is our designer. Because today the whole dApp has been designed more for a individual investor or individual user's purpose. For the treasury, we will be enhancing that so that it would not only give you the functionalities of withdrawing and then depositing at will, but also to see more of the performance about a month to month, how much of your treasury balance here has increased in value, how much of that is coming through from different sources, and then in case you would need to produce certain reports, we could also help support making sure you have all the transactions record and the performance view as well. In terms of the yield strategies themselves, the current mechanism is that the team would introduce and discuss, or other DAOs can propose their own yield strategies for us to use. And we are now nailing down on how do we use the DAO governance to go through this process of selecting or approving certain strategies for it to be incorporated for Vault and Powered. So technically speaking, as a user, the DAO cannot just say, I want my money to go into a different yield strategies than the rest. Everyone in the protocol are using the same strategies. But then as someone with a DAO token holders, if you would acquire Grow tokens, which is the governance token, you can then also vote in future snapshot votes about which yield strategies to go for or to not go for example. So that's definitely some way that the DAO can influence, but there is no separate portfolio or separate pool of money for the DAO to manage their own money in that case. And that was the part one of the question. I can also go into part two about some thinking on different L2 or different chains, if that's helpful. Or if you have any follow-up questions on that one first, Nathan.
No, that's good.
All right. So the second part of the multi-chain, we are very excited to be going on to Avalanche soon. But then the way that we are doing that, and I keep on saying soon, is really soon. I just couldn't quite tell you the date yet because we are working with a partner on it. But then the way that we are doing it is not to incorporate that into our core products already, because we are looking at Avalanche while it is very attractive program with Rush and then also with very user-friendly interfaces. It's still quite new, and then the strategies that we are partnering with has a very high APY, but does come with more inherent risk. That's why we are not looking at integrating that yet, but having it as a standalone strategy in a place we call labs. By labs, by definition, is for experimentation. So that's where we are getting at. But going forward, we are also looking into how to get our protocol more accessible by people with smaller balance. So we are looking at how we can do it more on the L2 side. This we are working with another partner, but we are anticipating that things would happen before the end of year. Again, cannot announce the date because we still have an embargo under the agreement, but that should be coming soon. The third part is then in terms of governance, we do hear a lot of voices on participating in governance sometimes could be very difficult because of the gas costs involved, and also about getting the tokens, sticking them, claiming them, it's all work. So we are scoping out a few different options on L2 to understand how can we make governance participation much more equal, let's say, for people with larger pockets and also with smaller balances alike. Gnosis chain is not something we have looked into already. I can bring it back to the team, but we are working with Olympus Pro, who has a Gnosis safe. So we are looking to see how we can get closer with Gnosis, because that's apparently a lot of treasuries are also looking to actually working with them in terms of the how to safeguarding their funds as well. But yeah, I'm sorry I couldn't share more. I'm really bursting with excitement, but then I have to zip my mouth. Wish I can come back to you guys in maybe a few weeks' time. At that point, we can share a lot more details on these things.
Do you mind if I just elaborate super quickly on top of that? It's Chris from the Grow team here.
Hi, Chris.
Hey, thanks for the warm welcome. It's great to be joining you all here. So as Joyce mentioned, I work within our product team. And make sure that the various products that we're building and dApps that we're building are simple and easy to use for individual users and DAOs alike. We're chatting with a few DAOs at the moment just to understand, what are the product needs and the dApp needs. And I just wanted to add a cherry on top of the answer that Joyce gave, in that there's currently no locks whatsoever for depositing or withdrawing from the protocol. So it's very quick, easy, and permissionless to deposit and remove funds. And right now the protocol supports USDT, USDC, and DAI for deposits and withdrawals. And we also allow to deposit of any amount of those three at a single time, and also at withdrawal as well. So you can maintain the same stablecoin through deposit and withdrawal, or you can choose to have a selection of those, based off your treasury needs or given price rates at any point in time. And as far as allowing treasuries or treasury managers to track the performance of funds within the Grow Protocol app, as I mentioned, we're currently talking with various DAOs and treasury managers to make an experience that allows you to quickly and easily track returns, historical returns, as well as the current rate of return, or APYs, and then provide easy reporting on performance from the Grow Protocol as well. So we see there's a couple of ways we can help out DAOs in just making treasury management a bit easier now, and then we're also looking at things we can do in the future to make treasury management for DAOs better.
Interesting. Thanks for the input, Chris. we are pretty unique to DeFi, even though the term DAO has become pretty popular, and there are lots of those out there. Most of those are just DAOs in name only and not truly decentralized. The way DXDAO manages its treasury is completely trustlessly and in a permissionless manner through a multi-call scheme, and every single action goes through the on-chain governance. So we do not have funds managed by multi-sigs, and I'm wondering whether the current setup for withdrawal would allow for us to use our multi-call scheme to call an action and withdraw funds from an on-chain vote.
I see. Would that be
Would it
right?
require a signature or?
So right now, it would require, is that a smart contract? So would that be right to say then the entire transactions would be done through a smart contract itself, right? I assume if you have votes, then right now we would need to whitelist the TX origin for the smart contract. But that is something that we can work with to make sure that we, once we whitelist the TX origin, that it could be allowed the smart contract to interact with ourselves to deposit and withdraw. Where that might, in the more longer run, we are looking to remove our smart contract block. Actually, let me rewind a little bit. Yes, we do have a smart contract block as part of our design initially to make sure of safety about which wallets could interact with us. But then because we realize a lot of treasuries do have different ways, but they have multi-sig or they have different wallets, and that is coming through with a smart contract. So necessarily, I think we are looking to remove that smart contract block in order to accommodate more treasury clients. So if that is the case, I could see that the key things might be more on the smart contract side that we could do whitelisting for.
Good. And lastly, what are your plans on decentralization? What are your current efforts? How is Grow as a protocol envisioning its future as a collective?
Yep. I think that going forward, we have been still be quite new. I think we have started ourselves being decentralization in late September, early October through the token launch. So far we have about 1,900 token holders. And a lot of the people that we have interacted with, they're interested in the DAO, but then sometimes we still need to do a lot more in encouraging people to go vote. So that is something we are working on to say, is that more of a cadence to actually just give more decisions to people? And by definition, people who are interested in governance would take more efforts into learning about the proposals and then voting. We are working on that path, and hopefully through a combination of a more active use of our community forum, snapshot votes. We're using a snapshot votes right now, and then going to make sure we have a snapshot votes with on-chain execution. So anything that the snapshot votes decides on, if it has an on-chain if it has an on-chain execution components to it, then it just get implemented directly. So it's not like there is someone that needs to execute on it per se. But then on the other side, speaking back to the community, I think we're still working on how do we set up frameworks to say, why do we believe that certain things should go ahead and certain things do not? And having this framework to be approved by the community. So for example, thinking about back then, with Cream Exploit, right? We're talking about, well, why should we have put our money in Cream or should we not? And we realized that because of how early stage our protocol was, a lot of these decisions have been taken through discussion basis, but not necessarily through a framework that the DAO itself has already thought through and then debated about. So that is something we are looking to change by setting up those framework, throwing out what we believe might be a good proposal, but then having the DAO to provide inputs on community forum and then eventually vote for it. I would say a more living and breathing example right now is our revised tokenomics. Initially, as we launched, we had our own version of the tokenomics published and also giving a vesting contract. But as we have been using more and more of that, our DAO members were saying that was not very handy. We don't really like, how exactly it's functioning right now. So there is a community post online right now, and also a community call today to discuss that. And we'll then put those into votes to see which options would be best serving our DAO members. But we're still looking forward to see how we can set up a bit more of a decentralization, and not just in terms of getting people to vote, but getting people to work as well. So two things that we are thinking of. One thing we're working on already is a decentralized marketing team. So instead of us, the core team, so to speak, dictating how we do marketing or how we don't do marketing, we are now having an incentive system created so that each 2 weeks or 3 weeks, we have 20 people from the community to become our marketing ambassadors. We call them the G-Force. And so the G-Force would go out and see what is the best way for them to market for Grow Protocol, whether through videos or whatnot. And in the end of this whole 2 to 3 weeks, within the G-Force, they would vote for the members they believe have contributed the most. And this is a model we believe we could also replicate for other parts of the protocol, maybe in development, maybe less about that whole, maybe depending on exactly how it works. Maybe it works for the marketing, the model I described, but then, for example, on the developer side, is that setting up a grants, or is there something a bit more directed, telling people how we want their efforts to be spent would be the best way. So we're still in the exploring side, but we're definitely getting more and more decentralized in terms of, one, the overall decisions made at a high level, and two, in the execution level as well.
That's really interesting to hear. I feel optimistic that we might have something to offer you guys. That there's really interesting tech being built in DXDAO at the moment that the industry hasn't caught wind of yet. The Forecast Foundation of August Protocol reached out to us, and they wanted to decentralize and form a DAO. We'll be leveraging technology built by DXDAO that would allow the core contributor team to have reputational voting power using holographic consensus that will shortly after be married with liquid token governance. And I'd be happy to send you some materials over for you to review. I believe it would be beneficial.
Awesome. We'd love to know more about that. As said, we are still on the journey of understanding how to decentralize on different levels, on different aspects of the protocol. So it would be great to have more inputs and on how do we do it, and on what chain we do it, for example, as well.
Yeah, awesome. Well, has anyone else got any other questions, or we wrap it up?
Nathan, every time I unmuted myself, you asked the exact question I wanted to ask. So.
Front running. All right.
I think Nylon.
We can't hear you, Nylon. No.
Yeah. Seem to have a question. Hey, Nylon, could you?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
No.
Yeah, we can.
Dave said, every time I came up with a question, you kind of already sort of said it. I will say that I think you guys are already in touch with Dave. So Dave is leading sort of the treasury diversification efforts at DXDAO. And then, as I think Nathan mentioned here before, the decisions are being done on chain with a DAO proposal. In this case, we will have, let's say, if we pass a proposal to deposit into the protocol, we will do this with a multi-sig as an intermediary, just because it's a bit it can be done, but in our current governance system, it would be very complex. And then, regarding, I guess, what Nathan said about the governance system, a bit of background about that. And we have some people here from that team, but basically DXDAO is using the DAO Stack governance platform, and we are now upgrading it for our own use. And then it's been getting some traction from several other communities and DAOs, and we believe this is a better governance system. better scalable, like more long term. But this is kind of for another topic. And then Joyce, I'm assuming you guys are already in touch with Dave, right?
Yeah, I think we have a little bit chatting back and forth on the proposal itself, and Dave, I think we also met in the DAOs, right?
Indeed, yeah.
Yeah. So I would say here, we usually what we do is we also open like a Telegram group that's shared between the teams, and then yeah, we need to figure out like what are the if it makes sense for DXDAO, what are the engagement parameters to begin with, and yeah, I guess test it out if it makes sense.
That sounds great. We now have a post up on the DXDAO, the DAOtalk.org.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think it depends on whether you see that might be a good first step, and then we can start also the Telegram group to chat more about the details of it, potentially in terms of how the execution side, or how do you think about the allocation side, what amount will make sense for you guys and whatnot. So then we can see how to take the conversation forward.
Yeah. That sounds great.
I'll take over and send you the materials and plan the next steps.
Awesome. Thank you, Nathan. And thank you, Joyce, and thank you, Chris. I think he's still here.
Yeah, thanks everyone.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, so feel free to stick around. We have a few more topics that we're going to talk about. So I think the first one, the next topic is the initiative DAO. There's a post in the forum by Sky, and a couple of people have already sort of commented. And yeah, let me paste this in the chat now. Yeah, I think there are a couple of versions of a similar idea, and I don't know, does anyone have any feedback about this, what they think, whether we should proceed, how should we proceed, etc.
So really cool. Joyce, you just mentioned GeForce, and GeForce is actually very similar to Initiative DAO. It's we don't have it established yet, but it's an idea that we've been kind of throwing around, and it's a way for to let the community and maybe certain experts in the community, and these could be people that are part of the community or people that bring new ideas from outside the community, but really to rather than have your internal marketing department decide everything, and which tends to not take major risk and stays usually in bounds and stuff, to have some system in place that lets a more organic community explore new ideas or crazy innovative things that maybe it would be tricky to pass that through the normal, or to pass it through the normal governance process, to ask for a certain amount of small money just to try some new idea, is these ideas tend to not happen because of that. And so with Initiative DAO and having a system in place that makes it easy for potentially anyone that has a new idea, or maybe a subset of people that have are participating in this initiative, to basically have the freedom to go out and really try new ideas and new things, and then report back, and then have the community as a whole kind of vote or decide on which things worked and which things didn't work, and then ideally you take the ones that did work, or the people that found ideas that did work, and you re-up with those people or those ideas, and then you try to bring in additional new people. And so it's interesting Joyce, is there a post about your GeForce program that we could read too?
Yeah, we do have that on, I'm not sure if we have that on Community Forum or on Medium, but let me post the link to that on our chat then. Hopefully
Cool.
That's a good way to just kickstart some of those, share some of that experience. We're also running our first first epoch. We call it every 2 to 3 weeks that is an epoch right now. So if you give us another week or so, we can share more of how exactly one whole epoch looks like too.
That's awesome. We also have epochs for swapper token farming. So lots of DAOs and communities are doing very similar things. That's why it's great to like do cross collab and talk with each other. And so, yeah, back to the overall, what Elon had mentioned in the beginning. I laid out like a framework that like kind of makes it a competition. And I don't know, like we need to figure out how many people are interested in partaking in something like this. If there's only like 5 people that want to do it, then this would probably work. If there's 50 people that would want to participate in something like this, then we need to figure out a way to narrow that down or select the people or to select the ideas. And then there's other ways to do it where you could actually have kind of a quick acting, maybe multi-sig as the initiative DAO, and then anyone from the community could propose a very simple, quick proposal to that smaller group, and then that group could fund that idea. And so one's like kind of a competition, one's kind of more open. The key would be to outline like what are the progress. So any idea, we would want to have a summary of what that idea led to and whether, what the results were. And then that would be easier for the community to evaluate that idea. And so we would also do this in like epochs of like a month long or 2 months long and see how it goes, and then evaluate the overall program at the end of the 2 months or 1 month.
Yeah, and I believe the best way to quickly move this forward, because it will be beneficial for a marketing effort. If anyone has any comments, any additional ideas, any commentary is welcome, because if no one does, that would pretty much mean we should go ahead with it. And if no one speaks up now, I don't see why anyone would chime in later. Like if anyone has any objections, now is the time, because if no one speaks up, why not go ahead with it?
Oh yeah, just one additional thing. So this is a good framework for like marketing, and I think that's kind of what G-Force is doing too. But this actual framework of like spending quick money on new ideas to bring value to DXDAO as an ecosystem is like way bigger than just marketing. Like if someone thinks that they could spend $500 hiring like a hacker student to make a dashboard for a new product, and they could go out and find that person, because we talked about doing this as like a bounty board system, but it's one thing to have bounty boards where people have to come and look at a menu and then choose, versus someone here feels like, if I can get this built, if I can go find someone that can go build this thing, I think that's going to bring a lot of value to DXDAO. And so we could think of this as like way bigger than just marketing or just hacking or just business development or just one thing, but you could actually apply this to almost anything that you think could bring value to DXDAO. Yeah, community management or anything, basically.
Yeah, I want to say that, obviously, like, I think generally people are in support of this. I mean, like, why not? It's a decent experiment and it doesn't cost much money. I will say that there are a couple of versions of like how to conduct this experiment and how to do it. And I don't know, I outlined one version, which I think could be like a very easy MVP for this whole thing to kind of like test it out. But yeah, I mean, obviously there are like different considerations that we need to take. But yeah, like ideally we can get more comments on the forum like throughout this week, and then prepare a proposal by next week. I guess it's holiday as well. So
getting a little more feedback on whether people think it's a good idea to have rep at stake, right? And so there is always a concern where if we just give out, you know, $500,000 to like a bunch of people who say they're going to go do something in the community and then they just disappear with the money, right? Like that's a problem, right? And so one immediate way to protect that is to leverage a very unique thing that DXDAO has, which is on-chain reputation for specific people and wallets. And so 500, I don't know what you're talking about. And yeah, so rep at risk is like a way to easily protect against that. Like, I don't think anyone's going to walk away with money just to put in their pocket and have the chance of their reputation being slashed, or, you know, actually not just their on-chain reputation, but like as a person, unless you're anonymous, your actual personal reputation as a person is also at stake, right? But at the same time, the whole point of this program, as Nylon has pointed out, is that it's okay to take risks. If we spend some money on some things and they don't actually work out that well, or they don't contribute that much value, that's okay. That's part of the learning experience. And so that is important to understand, that that is also okay. Yes, but we don't want people asking for money and then going and not actually trying to use the money for the benefit of DXDAO and walking away with it. That would be a big problem.
So just to clarify, the rep slashing would only be if it was like clearly malicious, not if it just happened to not work out and wasn't profitable.
I think so, and maybe we should have a few bullet points, like the manifesto of Initiative DAO, just to make it very clear that that's the case, so that no one says I didn't understand. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I guess there's a few things I thought, not custom branded whiskey, although maybe not a bad idea, as Dave suggested from the chat. But just like, I guess it makes sense to not have it also be like a scary thing. Like, I wouldn't want to have have this thing where you take money for and then try it out, and then like there's a possibility it fails and then you lose all your rep. It's like kind of, I guess, goes against the point of it. So I just of making sure it's not like an actual risk. It's like, don't be malicious.
I mean, if someone would behave maliciously in the DAO in general, we would slash their reps. So like there's a certain like code of conduct like in DXDAO that, you know, they still uphold. So
yeah, my comment earlier was like, you know, Sky gave an example with like 500,000. The pilot will just be with like 5,000, you know, 5 people getting 1K each, or 2K. So, you know, there won't be much at stake, and those will be trusted people, and it won't be just thrown out there for anyone to take. People will have to request, they have to be approved and then given the funds. So everything will be vetted and go smooth. And if the pilot goes well, if we find any initiatives that are catching on, we can increase spending. And with the increased spending, then the risk would increase. And if, say, someone ends up receiving 5,000 to run an initiative, and they end up misappropriating it or running away with it, then they would be a subject to reputation slash. But of course, that's again raising the question: are we putting a price on reputation? And it has to be thought out.
no, I disagree actually, and I think like we're trying to eliminate bureaucracy. We want to make it as easy as possible to receive money for a certain initiative that you want to do. If you're a rep holder, then you can request, and I think people sort of like trust each other to, you know, I don't know, not take, I don't know, 1K and spend it on, I don't know, on things that you shouldn't be spending it on. And then, like, in my opinion, this experiment, the goal is to remove bureaucracy from, I don't know, I scrolled through Twitter, I saw something interesting, and I think like I could give it like $300. I just go to to a forum post, hey, I want $300 to, I don't know, fund this NFT artist. because I think this will be great for DXDAO, and that's the goal. The goal is to create like the tiniest amount of friction for someone to, if they have an idea, they could request the funds very easily. So that's kind of my take. And yeah, obviously, if someone behaves maliciously, we can slash them. So I mean, I guess there's, if no one has anything else to add right now, we can like take it to the forum. Yeah.
I mean, ultimately it'll be on chain, right? Anyway, so, but I mean,
Yeah.
I'm in favor of it. So,
Yeah. I mean, let's give it a week or two for people to comment on the forum, and after that, we'll proceed with some action.
Yeah, it would also be good to maybe have some kind of poll, like to have a sense of how many people would be interested in participating as one of the initiators of something like this, even depending on the framework. But like if there's like, yeah, it's important to know if there's like 50 people or if there's like 3 people that are interested to like try some ideas and things, you know.
It might be nice to lay out some like examples or just guidelines for what like we're expecting it to be used for. Like most of the things I've been thinking of is obviously kind of related to governance, and I don't know whether this is the correct outlet for that, or if this is something that should just get brought up as like, oh, there's a few bounties I think we could create for like relating to governance, and if that should be separate from this, or if this is a good way to do that.
Well, one initiative I could think of, particularly myself, is asking the community on Discord or in Twitter to read our DX Vote article about the future of governance as a hybrid between reputational and liquid token governance, and asking people to come up with memes about it, and then reward the best memes and use the funds. Like if I'm given $1,000, I will ask people to read the article and create memes with the information from the article about governance 2.0, and I'll give the top 5, sum of the funds, and that's it.
But to Ross, to your question, I think that this should be wide open for anything that brings value to DXDAO ecosystem. It includes governance, includes marketing, includes everything. So if you have some unique little ideas related to governance, I think that should for sure be part of Initiative DAO. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
But we should, we can make like a 5-bullet outline. We want to keep it as little in the box, keep these, we want it to be outside the box thinking. So we want to put as few restrictions on ideas as possible, is I think the goal.
Yeah. I guess we have a few more minutes. Do you want to talk about the Pocket Network deal that we're discussing?
Maybe if we want to prioritize, we've spoken about Pocket a lot, but I believe Double is
okay.
Like the window is closing. So if Sky would like to,
at this point, Sky, I would just say let's make the Signal proposal, on XDAI.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, I would agree, because remember, Sky, in the chat, you asked people whether they would approve it, and like at least 10 people gave it a thumbs up. So
yeah, so I think that's what we're learning, is we need to do more on-chain proposals, whether they're Signal or actual ones.
Yeah, I mean, I think we discussed this several times. This is the best way to get attention, because everybody's busy. But when something goes on chain, then people are paying attention.
Yep.
And then Chris is suggesting a call with Henry.
Yeah, it depends if we think it's necessary, but we're maybe going to invite him to one of the DXbiz calls, but we could also, if necessary, schedule a separate call. But I don't know if there were any outstanding questions that we need to ask. So
yeah, I was only going to say, like, I think we need to escalate it, or like I think there seems to be some consensus to like move forward in some way. And so whatever that is, if that's a signal proposal or like another meeting or something, I think we're ready for the next stage.
Yep.
Awesome. I think, like,
by the way, the ETH Denver thing is open, and it's somebody was saying in the Discord you should apply ASAP. So
Yeah.
probably everyone worth doing in the next hour or so.
do it now.
Or now, yeah.
Yeah, it's scary. What if the US closes borders for Europeans? I don't know.
That would suck.
You're registering to hack. You're not paying anything. So, like, worst case, you can't make it.
Yeah.
I know. Does anyone else have any other comments? Or I guess we can wrap it up here. All right. Do you want to stop the recording?